Hello and welcome. The Road to GotY series will have spoilers in it. I will try not to spoil anything too specific most of the time, though I will preface specific spoilers. But it will definitely have visual spoilers, as these will be games mostly that I have beaten, though a few that I have not. With that said, hello and welcome to Code Vein in the Road to GotY. I finished this game about maybe 20 minutes ago, just long enough to take a break. Loading into an older area right now so we can play around in it. While I talk about it, but I actually really like this game. I think that the cast wound up being pretty good, the story wound up being pretty good. Loading times are kind of a pain sometimes, as you could tell, but I actually wound up really liking this game. I think Code Vein is a lot of fun. We're just gonna clear through these guys, I'm sure, because they're much lower level than we are. But the big thing for me, again, the story was decent. I like where it went. It wasn't the big selling point to me of this game. What was is the gameplay. And the gameplay is very much like an anime Soulsian style thing. The ability to change your build on the fly is really cool. I think that more games should have that. In fact, if I wanted to use, say, the Sunset Greatsword right now, I could switch to a Veil and a Code that would be better for those. Let's see. I've got the Warrior Code here. We'll switch to the Warrior Code. And then we'll switch to a Veil that increases our damage on... Actually, this Veil might still be the right one for that. Looks like it, really. Hoping for a fast one. Might not get that with Warrior. Might have to go Fighter to get that. But, again, I can just change these on the fly as much as I want, basically, to be able to mix and match to make a build that I'm looking for. And then we have a completely different weapon that we're using. That is a great sword. I wanted a light sword. Quick. I think this might still be a great sword. But either way, just that quick. Changed my build completely using a different weapon. Different gifts to go with it as well. Different abilities, different passives that I can put on there. We're going to go back to my regular blood code and back to my regular weapons. But I think that's a really cool thing that you can just change them on the fly like that whenever you want, basically, and you're good. What did I change? Oh, this weapon is what, because I had the wrong weapon out. I was like, what did I change that my stuff isn't right? Gameplay-wise, the bosses are still really easy. They never got any harder, really. There's one boss fight that gave me a little bit of trouble towards the end. Because it's a multiple enemy boss fight. But other than that, it's pretty simple the whole way through when it comes to the bosses. They did a lot of damage, just like you do a lot of damage to them. I burned down one boss in a single combo, but I think that might have been the point of that boss. That boss didn't seem like it was supposed to be very difficult. But you have so many tools at your disposal in the mid-game. Early game, it can be really difficult and you can struggle, but by the mid-game, you've got so many different options, so many different... I mean, just look at all the different gifts that I could use. And different abilities. And I haven't even mastered a bunch of them. And then all the different passives that I've got. All the different veils that I've got. All the different weapons that I've got. It's pretty crazy. And I'm a pretty high level as well. I think that is where this game's real selling point is. That's going to be the thing that keeps me coming back to Code Vein, I think. Time permitting, of course. But the ability to play with a completely different weapon, a completely different blood code, a completely different veil combo than I had before. Maybe to focus on light gifts this time instead of the dark gifts that I focused on. And trying to go for a build that's maybe a little bit tankier, a great sword build. And again, not having to start a new character to do that. I can just change those with this character whenever I want. I found a build that I was very comfortable with, and for the most part stuck with it. But the fact that I can change it up at any time when I choose to is really cool, and I like that a lot. I think I've already been down here. There's an area that I missed somewhere in this area, and that's what I was looking for while we were doing this video. Character-wise, I think I'll go back to the base in a minute to show the base off as well. I think that, although the base will have even more spoilers, because I'm late game. I think that most of the characters are really good. I think that Mia is kind of a nothing. She doesn't really have much of a character, but everybody else is pretty solid. I like them. I did not. Actually, this is the second time I've recorded this video. I recorded the first one before I completed the game. And I was maybe 75% way through. I actually didn't like a lot of the main cast. But the things that have happened in the story in the last 25% sold me on the characters that I wasn't sold on. Except for Mia. I still think Mia is kind of just a nothing. But this is a fun game. I definitely think it's worth picking up. I think that the combat alone sells it, but I also think the world building is really cool. When you get into like the breakdown of revenants and how they lose their memories when they die, but they come back every time, and then they just have lost. They don't lose all their memories, but like they lose one every time they die, and that memory can be really important or it can not be that important, and it changes things as they go, and it actually makes a lot of the character interactions really sad as they have forgotten people that were important to them or things that were important to them, and you remind them of them, and it changes a few of them. They act differently than they did before, which is really cool. I think that's a nice way to do that. The only thing I'm not a huge fan of is the amount of ambushes in Code Vein. There are so many situations where they know that to get that item, you're going to get ambushed, and if you're paying attention, like this, there's guys above up there. If you're paying attention, you can draw them out with either a dagger or with a veil that has a ranged ability, and then get the big guy first, and then when these guys drop down, there'll be nothing. But at the same time, there's so many ambushes in this game. I don't think it's really that big of an issue. It is my biggest problem with the game, but I don't think it's that big of an issue because your ally, your AI ally, will call out enemies sometimes and just be like, hey, look out, there's people there. Before you even notice them or before you walk into an ambush. And it makes the ambush kind of pointless. So it almost feels like the ambush is only there for people that don't want to roll around with the AI companion. Like here, where he said look down there and then mark the enemy on the map. Like, I know that enemy's there because Jack told me the enemy's there. You can choose to go without an AI companion. And that definitely increases the difficulty. If you've played around and your AI companion has died, you get to see what the difficulty would be like real quick. Because it's tough when they're not around to scope things out for you and do some extra damage for you. And that feels like a place I could go down there that I haven't been to yet. This seems important. Also like an ambush spot. No ambush. Okay, cool. I don't want to drop on that guy. There we go. There's the missile I was missing. I also did not get... I thought that ladder would connect right here. Oh boy. Okay, well I missed that ladder. Got to go back around for that. Unless it connects over here, maybe. Yeah, it does. Okay, cool. I actually really like the environments in this game. A lot of them are really samey early on. We'll go to a different area here in a minute just to show it off. But later on in the game, they get a lot more varied. With some really interesting like mechanics, like fire, like super hot ground that hurts you to walk on, or sand that is so dry it drains the ichor from you so that you don't have as much ichor. Yeah, that's 100% completion of the map. Now, what the heck is all the people back? Oh, right. Yeah, I got you. Okay, yes, I'm sorry. We never did get that item there, did we? How do you get that item? Jack, can you kill that guy, please? Okay, I'll kill him. Don't worry about it. How do we get this item? Looks like you'd have to come in from side, but you can't do that.
So you know what you're doing too?
Sir, could you die for me, please? Thank you. You also can get combat arts from fighting bosses, which I think is really cool. I wish there were more of them, is maybe the way that I'll put it. Because it definitely feels like there could have been. Maybe from up there there's a way. Didn't look like it, though. How the heck do we get that item? Looks like there's a ladder that leads to it, but it would have to be back down below. Surely.
What's this?
Surely. Oh, I fell. Okay, it wasn't that big of a drop. Yeah, I really like Code Vein. I think that any other year it probably would have wound up in my top 10, but I don't really see how it could break my top 10 now. My top 10's pretty set right now, but I'm definitely going to wind up putting some more time into it, especially if there's more DLC. I do think there could be a little bit more weapon variety. There's very few weapons. When I get to the top of this ladder, I'll switch between all the different weapon types. I think it'd be really great if there were some more weapon variety. Can we... You've got your halberds. You've got your great swords. You got long swords. One-handed swords, as the game calls them. You have actual spears, which are pretty cool. You have hammers, which are pretty cool. Not at all. You have axes that kind of use the hammer moveset, kind of don't. And then you have bayonets. And the bayonets, like, they're really cool. I think they're actually really interesting. I almost wanted to run with the bayonet, and I might on my next playthrough. Because, like, the different type, like, this one's a shotgun. And it uses your I-core to fire off that blast to hit your enemies. Whereas this one is a rifle. They operate very differently because of that. But I do wish there were a couple more. It just feels kind of limiting when there's only 5 weapon types, really. And there's just a little bit of difference in between. I'm hoping that maybe with a sequel, we can get some more weapon types in here. But, really cool. Almost every weapon, almost, not all, almost every weapon that's a boss weapon has a specialized triangle attack that allows you to spend I-core to do something cool. And then, of course, there are charged attacks as well. But this is a really cool. I love this sword. It kind of made me want to switch up my build, but I didn't do it. I was really happy to keep using what I was using. This one's really cool, too. There's some really nifty swords that made me kind of sad that there's not as many cool spears. Because the cool spear is this. And it's like, it's a cool scythe. It's got a really cool moveset. And it's got a nifty attack, but I don't know. Would have liked a couple more. Spear section's a little light. Although this thing's pretty sick. This poleaxe. Really like this. Point is, there's a lot of variability to play around with here. And as you can see, I'm now rolling slower because this axe is heavier than my previous weapon. If I switch back to my halberd, I have my regular roll. So again, you got to change up your equipment to be able to match your weapon type that you're. Let's go back though to base. We'll talk about characters for a minute, and then we'll go to maybe the snow area, just to show off a different area. Oh, I got a present. No, I don't want a present. Video game. Cool. Loading screens also kind of a pain in this game. They take a while sometimes, and there's also really bad pop-in. That's another small complaint that I have. You'll have a moment where, like, the character loads, and then a second later, almost a full second later, they're, like, the detail on their outfit loads. And it's not noticeable too bad, but if it's the first time a character is shown in a cutscene, it almost always happens. And so if you're pretty deep into a cutscene, and you've gotten used to the fact that everybody's loaded in like they're supposed to, and then all of a sudden, say, Mia moves, and it's the first time she's been on screen in that cutscene, then all of a sudden she just loads in the rest of her outfit, the rest of her details, and that's pretty distracting. So yeah, there's some spoiler characters in here, but like Davis wound up being really cool. We have a map, we could explore the depths, but we'll show off an actual cool area because the depths are kind of just, they're cool, but they're very samey. Yeah, I like his character. He forgot his wife and his friends, and he's like trying to build his life back, and you return that info to him, and it's like, okay, he remembers them now, but they're not here. So was he really better remembering them? I don't know, you know? Louis, I was pretty cold on early on. He didn't really work for me, but over time, as you get to know him better, I actually did really like his character. I think that the stuff with him and Kevin is what really sold me on Louis. But also, like, his sister's kind of cool, and his interactions with her are okay. Yakumo is really cool. I love his interactions with, like, Emily and with the rest of his old crew. I actually found him to be a really interesting character. Coco, Murasame, they're both okay. I like their characters well enough. Io, she's pretty cool. I really liked her by the end of the game. Mia is just a nothing though. It's so unfortunate because like she could have been really cool and she's not. It's for her. It's I've got to protect my brother, save my brother. It's all about my brother. And then after that whole arc resolves, it's just she's just kind of there. And I hate that because she could have been really cool. I really like her design. She just doesn't work for me. Alright, one long loading screen after. Just to show off a little bit of how different the environments are. The snow area is actually really beautiful. I like it a lot. And you can hear the crunch of the snow as you move. It also introduces some interesting new enemy types, which is really cool. We'll use this heavier one just to show. Not as powerful because it's not as upgraded, but it does have a different moveset. That said, there are also some specialty moves you can do. There's a launch. Can be kind of difficult to get on the bigger enemies. There is a smash that you can do. And then, of course, you can charge your triangle attacks. Do some cool stuff there. We'll run around to the front of this area and show off a cool thing with it. And then we'll go back to the hot spring to call it. I do really like this game. Again, were it in any other year, I think it probably would have broke my top 10 for sure. It's a lot of fun. It just doesn't... The problems that I have with it aren't huge, but they're definitely there. Ambushes all over the place. Lots of enemies. But again, at some point the enemies kind of become less threatening than they are just a thing you deal with and move on, you know? And then... The story itself it's not amazing. It's not terrible. I like it, but it just didn't really wow me. Look at these guys. Look at these ambushers right here. Hanging out here, just trying to kill you. That guy fell. Haha. Yeah, we'll go back and we'll go back to base, the hot spring, and we'll call it here. But this Road to GotY series is basically just going to be me touching base on all the games that I played throughout the year again. Let's kill this guy too while we're at it. There's also this guy who thinks he's... Oh no, that guy's actually dead. I was going to say that guy who thinks he's being sneaky. Let's get a cool backstab here. I actually really like the backstab animation. Okay, didn't trigger. Even though it absolutely should have. We were the right distance away, but okay. Alright. Thanks, Yakumo. It also, like, has to do this loading, this little short black loading screen, every single time you try to use a missile. Which is kind of annoying. Like, didn't really have to do that. This is cool, though. The fact that it levels up every stat when you level. Again, so that you can change your build on the fly whenever you want to. I think that's really cool. And as you can see, I finished the game at level 143. But we'll go back to the home base, and we'll hang out in the hot springs real quick, and then we'll call it. Alright, let's go hang out in the hot spring. And then we'll call it. I do think the hot spring is pretty cool. Yeah, I really like this game. I think that a sequel could fix the problems that I have. Introduce a little bit more variety in the weapon types. And I think the story, again, is fine. I would have liked a bit more. I would have liked the story to be... I don't know, it felt kind of repetitive after a point of go do this thing... repeat this thing, do it again, do it again, do it again. But at the same time, I really liked the characters as I went, as we were meeting new characters, and as we were getting to know them. I thought that was a lot of fun. I think that it for the most part, it succeeded. I think the story is absolutely fine, and I really like the characters. Especially, like, Io here, she really grew on me as the story went. At first, I kind of hated her. But, I think Code Vein is probably the most that I've flipped on a game. If you go back and watch the first impressions video, I really didn't like Code Vein with my first impressions, but by the end of it, I really enjoy it. I think it's a really fun game. I'm definitely going to come back and play around with it a little bit more. Maybe try to go for the other endings. I got the good ending, but I want to play around with some other builds. I want to play around with some other blood codes. And maybe, play around with some character creation a little bit more. This was a fun character to play. Teresa, as I called her, was a lot of fun. With all that said, though, I was hoping that some of the guys would come to hang out too, but doesn't look like anybody's here. So until next time, I've been Trey. This has been the Full Spectrum. Remember to always enjoy the full spectrum. Code Vein has to offer.